The following podcast contains opinions from paid professionals. The information provided in this podcast is general in nature and not advice. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Welcome to another episode of So We Think, episode 2 for the spring. Ben Way, before we get into this weekend's racing, let's recap a few things that happened on the show last weekend, particularly Storm Boy. So I tell you what, we might have got that one slightly wrong. He has returned in a big way. He was really impressive. Still has to win that Group 1 going forward, but his return was nothing short of scintillating.
Yeah, it was fantastic, no doubt. And he burned it at both ends and ran time, and what more can you do? From our end, I guess the discussion was about whether he's a $22 million colt. We'll soon find out. I don't think that was the resume builder that you sort of need as your flagship, but you're feeling a little better now that he's returned like that. And a few other bubbles burst in that race too. I think they're probably having a rethink with Gatsby's. Maybe not as good as they originally thought, or maybe had an off day, not sure.
Yeah, I think the former there, Tropicus in that race. I hope someone took the big price,
push.
the place. He flashed home for third, and he's got a nice race in him this spring for sure.
Yep, and Pride of Jenny, it's funny. We sit here and say we probably got the Storm Boy one wrong, and we were saying Pride of Jenny probably isn't as good as Via Sustain in our opinion, or I at least said in my opinion. Well, I didn't want her to come out and do that.
No.
It'd be that disappointing. That was a shame, and I really hope that she bounces back because, our jobs really are to build up racing. And I think that if we have Mr. Brightside at full tilt, Pride of Jenny going as good as ever, and Via Sustain, that makes our spring.
Yeah.
If she drops out of it, those races they lose a little bit. It wasn't full alarm bells, but it was pretty close.
Yeah, hearing from the stable over the last couple of days, she seems to have come out of it fine. So maybe it was just an anomaly first up. She never truly races seriously well first up. We discussed that on the show, but you're hoping she improves because it's good for racing. And these discussions that we have on this show are good for racing because, you've got to have an opinion to put it out there and try and build up some buzz throughout the spring. And that's what we're here to do. So let's get into probably one of the highlights of this Saturday coming. It's the Concorde, and it's the big return of Giga Kick. He's a 2-time Group 1 winner. He's an Everest winner. He had that calamitous run in Melbourne in this time last year where he's done a really bad injury to his hind quarter and he's had to sit on the sidelines for the last year. I love the way that Clayton Douglas has approached this guy. He's the headline horse of his stable and probably forever will be as well, but he has taken so much time, care. He's taken a really measured approach. When they wanted to push forward about 6-8 weeks ago, they pulled back, knowing that his target would again be the Everest. What do you think?
Really tough position for him. I've heard him say he's never had a horse come back off a 12-month break. So this is a huge first for him, and you forget that. I know that he's been a horseman all his life, but from a training side of things, this is a huge challenge for him. So he's done the right thing, the conservative approach, lots of walking and work and rest. He mentioned in that 12-month break, the vast majority of it was doing nothing. This horse has torn a muscle off the hip bone, it's pretty significant. It's a big test for trainer and horse, but where my query is you need to make a statement first up, but you've got a horse returning off a 12-month layoff, so you sort of need to leave a bit of improvement there. So what does he do? My thought is you have him super fit and hope you can hold on for an Everest now, because the whole building into a prep thing surely is gone.
Yeah, the first trial, I think there were slight concerns as to how he had returned. That second trial, though, he couldn't have done much more. It was a really nice piece of work. I am sure since that he has taken the necessary improvement to be really competitive on Saturday.
Clayton said if he gets the right run in transit, the horse will do the rest.
Yeah, I think
that's as bullish as you get.
He's a really good horse.
Yeah.
He's a really, really good horse. It takes a special one to win an Everest. He was a 3-year-old when he did it. And then he came out and, he franked that form, winning 2 Group 1s following that. So there's no doubt that he is a superstar horse. I've been fascinated by the big money for Aft Cabin. Yep. Huge money, opened $11 now into about $5. So I think that's fascinating, gets the services of Jason Collett and then, of course, Bella Nipotina, who had this incredible summer and autumn preparation, traveling here, there, and everywhere around the country. She will carry residual fitness. She won't get the softer ground that she probably enjoys. And first up, there's probably a slight query there as well.
She's just proven herself to be a
Iron horse.
A gun.
Yeah.
She's just good. I mean, I get the point about the ground, but I think she's just good every time she goes around. So she's your bulletproof horse. Private Eye needs to make a statement. Giga Kick needs to make a statement. And Half Cabin, I've sort of parked Half Cabin for a while. Yeah. But that's only because I've been a believer and been burnt. My fingers are singed. I'm down to the knuckle. But, yeah, that's not to say that they can't win. And clearly a few think that Half Cabin can. Remark is the other one. I've always thought Remark was very good, but maybe a length or two off the top
Yes.
tier. How do you read it?
I believe the exact same thing as you on there because he won the Concorde last year and didn't get a slot in the Everest. So he'd have to go to another new PB, I think, to be beating Giga Kick and Bella Nipotina in particular. Red Card's the other really interesting one for James Cummings for me. Now, she's probably a Group 3, Group 2 type of mare, but she gets conditions to suit here on Saturday. Like first up, she flies. So she could be the slight fly in the ointment. I think particularly with these early group races that we find ourselves before we get to the big, showdown Group 1s later in the spring, sometimes it's the horse that's best placed for conditions that suit them can walk away the winner. So, but I'm with Giga Kick. I think he can do it. I think he can come out and make a statement, and I'd love to see him get a slot in the Everest after everything that Clayton and the Pinecliff team have been through with him.
If he's right, he's the horse to beat in the Everest.
Yeah.
So let's hope we see the best of him. We did touch on Amelia's Jewel. What are we expecting under a new trainer now? And I guess that's the question is, what's her pet trip? Is she as good as we first suspected and many still suspect? And can Annabelle get any improvement out of this?
Yeah, she's been an interesting one over the last couple of seasons because the boom on her was absolutely ginormous. And she's won some really nice races when she was with Simon Miller. It's well documented during her career when she was with him that she was being aimed at those shorter sprint trips. And he himself, along with Ona, probably said, well, maybe she, going forward, will realise that she is a 1,400, 1,600, maybe even 2,000 metre horse. That's all to be determined this preparation.
I think Annabelle thinks she's a miler.
I look back on her last 5 runs, and obviously new trainer can change things up, but you look at her run in the Toorak over the mile, and that's the Toorak won by Attrition, who's now a Group 1 winner but hasn't gone on to win another Group 1, if we're being honest. That was an average effort. Then she came up and she ran in the Golden Eagle and nothing went right for her that day. Like you dismiss that. You just forget about it. But then, what she did in the preparation after when she was pulled back in those sprint trips, running in a Goodwood, a Roma Cup and a Quokka, she got close, but she didn't get the chockies. I would like to see her come out and really make a statement on the weekend for me to truly believe that she is the Group 1 headline horse that the buzz has been about over the last couple of seasons. Without that, I need to see it to believe it.
Yeah, and sometimes I reckon we could have a tramway where we still wouldn't quite know. But when you look between Freedom Rally and Arctic Glamour, and even Democracy Manifest, I know probably isn't quite there, but you at least have a good marker. Like those 3, if she makes a mess of them, you think, right,
100%.
We've got a really
I'll
serious
believe
animal.
what I see.
So I guess the 2 takeaways when I had to listen to Annabelle were anywhere 14 through to 18 she thinks could be pet trip, but leaning towards the mile. The biggest thing seems to be avoiding wet tracks. So she's said tramway, I think it was 7 Stakes and King Charles, plan A. But if it rains in Sydney, we'll go down to Melbourne. So that says to me, not just, we're questioning heavy tracks. That means we're flat out avoiding them. And I kind of like that conviction, but I don't like it when you get to like plan B, C and D. I hope that we just have good tracks throughout the spring. We know Sydney well. And
she's targeting those mile races, and that's right in the middle of, the 14 to the 18. So right down the middle of the road is the mile. you look at the competition she's going to be facing over the next little while. Like, she's going to have to be elite. And let's be clear, she's going to have had to have gone to a new level to win some of those mile Group 1s, like Fangirl, Via Sistina.
Oh, to win the King Charles, she's going to have
Like,
to be better than the height.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Brightside, Pride of Jenny, if they come up to Sydney and tackle that race, like, she's going to have to be next level.
That's where Melbourne, say for an Empire Rose,
Yeah.
feels like a nice
Spot.
ulterior. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be I'm excited to see her. I'm excited to see her under the guidance of Annabelle and Rob, and excited to see her over a trip that suits on dry ground. And maybe we see something. Maybe we see the real Amelia's Jewel that's really special.
See,
on
we
the
made
weekend.
we made the point before in regards to, Jenny and Stormboy and stuff. Like, it's part of the discussion, and you're always going to give your opinions on whether you think a horse is good enough or is going to make the mark or make the leap or might struggle, that sort of thing. But we're all hoping they run their best.
100%.
I could easily back against her, won't, but I could easily back against her in this race. I'd still be hoping she ran out of her skin because it makes for the rest of the spring. She's going to be a huge talking point. So too is the Cozzy, which is fast approaching.
So tickets sales end next week. So if you haven't bought your tickets and you're in New South Wales, get them now.
Are you allowed?
I would doubt it.
I'm not allowed.
Yeah, I would doubt that I'm allowed to. I haven't investigated it, just assuming that I'm not allowed to.
See, I'd love to get a group of, say, 4 or 5 mates together and just buy a few grand worth of tickets.
But
imagine the rush.
Yeah, it would be amazing. But I love the games that are being played at the moment by different camps to try and get their horse selected in the Cozzy. So Front Page, he'll get a spot. He's won 2 of them. And because Tyler Schiller has already been booked for Faulkner Park for the Caulfield Cup on the same day in Melbourne, James McDonald has already secured, which is interesting because he hasn't left that booking to the last minute. He's gone, nah.
It's the best horse.
Yeah, I'm with Front Page. The other interesting one, though, is Matt Dunn. Hearing that he wants to buy $40,000 worth of tickets in the hope of getting 1 or 2 slots. He's crunched the numbers and realised that's maybe the magical number of tickets you need to get. I think it's pretty smart.
Yeah, probably is. Well, I mean, there are other avenues. You go down the advertising route and try and get slot holders. You try to attract the slot holders, or you try to become a slot holder. He's gone down that path, and God, I hope he gets a ticket.
Yeah, I
if you
know.
buy that many.
I think you got to view it almost as like if you're nominating for one of those big Group 1 races, like that's the nom fee anyway, if not more.
Yeah, that's fair.
So maybe like you view it like that.
So Tyler Schiller Faulkner Cup, it's a big day Saturday for Annabelle with a potential Caulfield Cup favourite going around, and Amelia's still new to the stable and trying to make a statement as well. Front Page looking to make it 3 straight. Haven't seen this horse since May. I'm a huge fan. I genuinely think the $3.50 will be generous if we get to that point because we've lost a few rivals and, definitely the horse to beat. And it's weird. He's 8, so I've heard a few people saying, he's 8 now. Is he the same Front Page? He's pretty lightly raced. He had a few dramas, so he probably thinks he's 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Does it work like that?
I think a lot of trainers believe that. The other interesting tactic that I think is being employed on the weekend is, as you mentioned, trying to attract a slot holder. And that's what Matt Dale is clearly doing with the Martini Mama race 2 at Randwick on Saturday. James McDonald booked a ride to go, here we are, here's the flashy grey mare, come and get me. So I think that's a great play. Obviously, that's a race that suits her over the 1,100 metres, but I definitely think it's a little put her front of mind in terms of ticket holders when they're announced in the next week or 2.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about the games that are played. I guess it's a good chance for us to talk about those parameters that are set because there are parameters. You can't just have a slot and say to an owner, all right, we'll give you 1% of prize money. Clearly if you're after a Front Page, you're going to have to give away a huge percentage of that prize money. But you can only give away so much officially. Say officially. There are rules in place. People are bending those. That's up to them. But anyway, slot holders must receive a minimum of 40%. So 60% is the total payable to owners. That's worst case scenario for a slot holder. So at bare minimum, if you want Front Page, you can offer up 60% of prize money to the trainer, owner, etc. But 40 you get to retain. So that's the starting point. So I guess the question there is, where do you venture from there? beyond a front page, I'd be demanding at least a 50-50 split.
It's hard though because the trainer and the owners and the jockey, they've put a lot of money and time and work into the horse. I think 40,
That's
60
not what it is.
Yeah, I know.
That's not what the race is. Your family lineage is shining. I get that. It sucks that somebody just gets a golden ticket and gets half of, probably the biggest moment of your racing career. I get that. But that is not what the game is. It's also not what the Everest is. So for anyone out there listening wondering about the formula, if, for example, a horse couldn't run on the day and we had an emergency run, there's a formula in place by Racing New South Wales with a breakdown, which I guess is your benchmark for where you could start negotiations. So they have, say it's $1 million for first, so it's 415 for the slot holder, 415 for the owner. So that's, you could argue 50-50 split, but it's actually not because I dare say typically the owner's percentage would include the trainer and jockey fee, whereas this doesn't. So 100,000 for the trainer, 50,000 for the jockey, and 20,000 for the stable hand.
Well, I think that lends to the 40-60 split.
Yeah, exactly. Almost exactly.
Yeah, almost exactly.
Yeah. So I would, but apart from front page, there's not one horse I would go to a 40-60.
Oh gosh.
Well, because they're not the prize money breakdown's significant.
Yeah.
Like I think you're talking 12,500 for the bottom end. I mean, that's what, 5 for first? Yeah. We're only talking about the winner. It's big prize money up there, but no, I'd need at least 50-50 for any other horse other than front page, unless there are parts of the deal I'm not privy to.
So the Everest, you speak about the Cozzy, the Everest on the same day. We are now, how many days out? 45 or something days out, and still only 2 slots taken. We saw Bustling trial this morning in Sydney. Good trial, really nice piece of work, straight to the front under the urgings of Chad Schofield. And he looked fast. I mean, that's what we came to expect from him when he was running in Perth. So he's got 1 slot. I Wish I Win resumes in the Moya. He's the other one with a slot. Where do you think we are going to land after Saturday? Because we've got 2 real premium sprint races, the Group 1 Moya in Melbourne and then the Concorde up in Sydney. So all up, we've got over 20 horses probably looking for slots because that's what we're doing. If you're racing over 1,000 to 1,200 metres in group company at the moment, that's what you're doing at the moment. You're looking for a slot.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that we'll have more slot holders confirmed, but so what have we learnt this week? We've learnt Stormboy's probably heading to a Guineas, so that Coolmore slot's probably Switzerland, who worked yesterday between races at Warwick Farm and wasn't overly tested, but looked to be working a treat. So you would say that one's kind of occupied unless something strange happens. I think the big statements need to come from Private Eye. If we don't see a good run, he may struggle to get in, which is remarkable given his history in the race. Bella Nipotina probably gets into the race anyway, but needs to make a statement. Giga Kick, yes. I Wish I Win's an interesting one because it'll be in the race regardless. It's too good not to, I think. But you wouldn't say it's the best statement race for it. 1,000 metres, probably getting back. You've got 2 main chances in Estrella and Lady of Camelot up on speed. I think we'll just see I Wish I Win hitting the line.
It's interesting because typically with I Wish I Win, they don't give him too much racing leading up to his grand finals because he just can't handle it. So for him to be running in a Moya and then we've got a lot of time in between now and the Everest, be interesting to see what they do with him because he doesn't need to do anything to get a slot.
No, and is it that he doesn't handle the racing or that they need him on the fresh side because he's probably a 1,400 metre horse?
I think it's probably both with his feet and bits and bobs like that. So, yeah.
I'm so looking forward to the Moya. I mentioned that last week.
Yeah.
I had a chuckle actually when somebody was asking me about this show and off the back of a clip where we were talking about Lady of Camelot. And they said, why were you even talking about that? And I said, fair point. I was just excited about it already.
Well, you got the $6. Let's get into our Saturday selections now that you mentioned Lady of Camelot. So you did tip her last week for the Moya, 10 days out, $6, and now she's at
$3.70. Second elect,
Good
Estrella.
shopping.
Good shopping, but the Over's God is a cruel person. And this, you know what, on this podcast, we've been cruelled by the Over's God previously. So there I even mention Zardozi and the Chelmsford, who I have on top. But yeah, Gay's never won a Moya. At least I don't think she has, which really interests me. Yeah, so
Over 150 Group 1s next to her name and not a Moya.
could be wrong on that. Double check that for me before Saturday, can you?
Yeah, okay. No
Yeah,
worries.
thank you. So there are a few. She Will Rain won the Slipper, then the Moya in 2017. Manicato did it, but they were in different years. So it is a difficult feat. That said, you need to be top drawer, and I think she is. Estriella, tough to beat. Coleman will be hitting the line well. But so we've got the Quinella out of the Blue Diamond, and we've got the Quinella out of the Blue Slipper.
Yeah.
Going
the
around
blue,
in it.
yeah.
It's a good addition on the Moya.
Yeah, I agree. I think particularly the bottom four in the weights in Estriella, Coleman, Lady of Camelot, and Hayasugi. She's flown under the radar as well.
Yeah.
Be hard to beat. But my play in the race, I'm going to have Johnny Rocker the place.
Love the Valley.
Loves the Valley. Loves the Valley. Races super well fresh. 1,000 metres is his pet trip. He went to another level last preparation, running second to Imperatrice.
I was about to say, who was the good horse he ran in behind? It was Imperatrice. Yeah.
I just think the setup for him, not sure he can win it over those younger horses that I mentioned, but at probably $5 the place, I'm willing to take a play there or just include him in maybe a little exotic.
Don't you counter-bet me. And, hey, on that race, very quickly, if you're Zach Lloyd,
Yes.
they've said their handlebars down Estriella. I mean, it's 1,000 metres of the Valley. Everyone's handlebars down.
From the wideish
really.
gate
But
as
they're
well.
drawn wide. Do you hunt up with Lady of Camelot and try to lead? Or do you take the sit and risk being pocketed at the Valley?
So you'd rather be off her shoulder or would you rather be three back the fence?
You could take that risk. You could let her cross and try to pop off yourself and just sit on her shoulder to the outside. But that's a risk. If something else comes up with it, you're pocketed. Or do you hunt up?
Do you know what? It won't be Zach's choice. It'll be the First Lady of Racing calling the shots there.
But if I'm Zach, I want the word to be hunt up.
Yeah.
Because
I think it probably will.
Because it removes the pressure from his end. It just goes, hey, I was riding to instruction. Hunt up. That was drawn wide. I drew well.
Yeah. I think that'll be the instruction. I think that'll be the call from Gay and Adrian because they want her to find herself with a slot in the Everest as well. They can't risk running a beautiful fifth in this event because you look at the field, something out of this will end up with a slot after this weekend. Like there's no doubt about it.
Did you watch the coverage yesterday from Warwick Farm?
I watched a little bit of it.
So I was chatting to Adrian Bott
Yeah.
pre-race, and I said to him, I see you had like 5 or 6 down for the nominations for Melbourne. Can we go through them all? This one, not going. This one, not going. This one, next week. This one, next week. This one. And I finally got to Lady of Camelot, who I'd already backed myself. And I said, don't you dare. And he goes, don't worry, it's running.
Yeah, good.
And I'm like,
Whew.
okay, thank you. I can't do this again. What other races do you want to look at?
The Concorde. What, are you going to back Giga Kick?
Giga Kick.
Or you're not going to? Are you going to back him? Is it too skinny? $2.70 first up after a year? Or are you just going to tip him?
I've tipped him on
Yeah.
top. Leave
Yeah.
that with me.
Yeah.
It's only Thursday.
Yeah.
Zardozi in the Chelmsford.
It's going to be hard to beat.
Lady of Camelot, Go You Good Thing. Munamek in the So You Think
Okay.
versus Pericles. Any other races?
Yeah, let's look at the Furious. So Manal, she gets back to set weights against Amina, who got the wood over her last start. So I think
Turns the tables?
I think she can turn the table. Second up is going to take some fitness improvement from that as well. The filly in that race that I want to have a place play on is El Morzillo for Kelly Schweder. She was desperately unlucky all throughout the summer
she
and the
was.
autumn for Kelly Schweder.
Yeah.
So if she's returned in the same order that she raced in last prep, I think she could go on to win a really nice stakes race
I
over
like
the
that.
Spring Carnival.
Yeah.
And then in the tramway, I am going to tip Arctic Glamour.
Yeah. Yeah. Good run last time out.
Loved it.
Probably a touch unlucky not to win.
Yeah.
And
Interesting to see that Schwartz has been put in the paddock
yeah.
after his win in that missile.
Does that mean hiccup or?
I think the words from Tom or John were that it was just a bit of a gut buster and he's just a bit flattened by it. And obviously, he's an expensive colt and he races for a colt partnership and they're looking to find stallions. Like getting that Group 2 is pretty important for them and they got it. They would be very much hoping to get a Group 1 in the future, just like your Storm Boys and stuff. Like that is the top line of resume when you can get the Group 1 as a stallion. But, they were out to win it and they did, but it's come at a small cost. Maybe he'll be back for the back end of the spring.
Hey, let's just double down on the Storm Because let's just double down. Will Storm Boy win a Group 1 this prep?
Off the back of Saturday, you'd think that he's got to be a good
You're full
chance.
flip.
No. But I just don't know what it is. Is it the Golden Rose? Like that Golden Rose is still going to be super hot.
Stacked.
It's going to be stacked.
Yeah.
As we said at the start of this show, I am not in the business of trying to tear him down. All we have said is that to justify the price, he needs to win one. I hope he does.
So do I.
Because particularly in that first preparation, I was all over him. I loved him.
But will he?
I don't know. What do you think?
I hope he does, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I hope he does. Have I reiterated that enough? Do I need to look down the camera? I want to see the best of him. I want to see the best of all of the horses we talked about. Amelia's would be great if she returns just airborne.
Yeah.
It's going to change.
And I don't
a few
think she
races.
needs to win first up 1400 either. Like if she's hitting the line really stylishly, because she does flash home, that's her pattern, get back, run on. If she's hitting the line really, really well and we're going, okay, mile next up, then I'll be happy. But conditions for me might suit Arctic Glamour. Second up, 1400 metres. I think she gets her stakes race this Saturday.
How did I pushed you 3 times on Storm Boy. You sat on the fence, and then I ended up saying no. He probably won't. This is a cruel game.
It's your choice.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's really heating up, and I think next week we'll have a lot more to discuss regarding the Everest. We love it. We love the concept. We love the wheelings and dealings and how exciting it is. So after the Concorde and the Moya, things are going to start getting interesting next Saturday. Thanks for joining us, and so we think we'll see you next week.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.